Are you ready to go back to high school? Booktubers, I have a tag for you. Hi everyone, welcome to the channel. I'm Jim. I am going to do a tag video today. I was tagged by Book Chat with Pat, and the title of this tag is called the High School Required Reading Tag. And this was an original tag that was created by Nicole at Noteworthy Fiction and by Alex, Stay-at-Home Reader. And as I said, I was tagged by Book Chat with Pat. Thank you, Pat, for tagging me. I guess I couldn't resist this one. And in Nicole's original tag video, she says this was all about high school required reading lists. It's an original tag reflecting on the books that we read or were supposed to read in high school. Now, it's been a while, but in many ways I keep reliving my high school days, whether as a student or as a floundering teenager. So I think about high school quite a bit. And I do have some memories of books I read in high school or were assigned, but I'm just going to take a first stab at these questions. I don't know. This is all unscripted, so we're going to see how it goes. I might edit out like some of my flubs, but I'll do the best I can with this. I'll try to respond to as many of these prompts as I can. As I said, it's been a long time, and the memories are a little bit dim, some not so dim. Anyway, prompt number 1. High school crush. Oh, a high school crush. Oh, I could write a novel about that. Name a book you were assigned in high school and loved at the time. Have you reread it, and did it hold up? Okay, first of all, best thought, I would say I'm gonna give you a couple, 2 or 3. So in sophomore year of high school, I was assigned to read Catcher in the Rye. I think it was on the summer reading list, and I loved it. I loved it immediately, and I have reread that maybe only once, maybe once or twice. I sort of went about trying to read all of Salinger's other books. He didn't write many, but Catcher, I've only read twice. I want to come back to it one of these days. And I do think it held up. And I think it was a book that was well pitched for me at that age. I think that's why it gets assigned so much. Adolescent with a lot of angst. And I could identify or relate to that. I don't think I ever was as troubled as Holden Caulfield was, but the book did speak to me, and the voice really spoke to me. He was saying things in a kind of slangy, no-holds-barred way, whereas I was a lot more self-contained and shy, and I might not have been as willing to write that way or to even speak that way in public. So that was somewhat liberating to read Catcher in the Rye. The book that I was assigned to read in high school and loved for my junior year, if memory serves, and there were many, but I would mention Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. That was a book that I didn't think I was going to like at all. The first chunk of it was very difficult, and I couldn't keep the name straight, and I went through a lot of what the F am I reading this for? What do I have in common with some lunatic in St. Petersburg, Russia? But by the time it got to the murder scene and then the immediate aftermath, I really got on the hook, and that was it. I loved the rest of it. I want to do maybe a separate video someday about my experiences of reading Crime and Punishment. It was a wonderful experience. I did reread that in college for a continental literature course. It was the Paul Demand translation, and I think the high school translation was, if I remember his name, it was Sidney Monas. I liked the high school read better than the college read. I think that had more to do with the translation and the edition than anything else. It's another book on my bucket list to reread and see how I feel about it these days, now that I'm so much older. There were a couple other ones that come to mind too. I really loved Jane Eyre. That was, I think, a 10th grade read. Waiting for Godot in 12th grade, out of left field. That spoke to me. I'm not sure I loved it, but I was very intrigued by it, and I think I liked it better than anyone else in the class. Number 2, gym class. Gym class. Name a book you were assigned that you hated. Have or would you give it a second chance? 10th grade, a book I sort of hated would be Bless the Beast and Children. I forget who the author was. Compared to all the other great stuff we had been reading, or most of the other great stuff we had been reading, which included books like Jane Eyre and Wuthering Heights and probably Macbeth and Catcher in the Rye, that one didn't hold up at all. Maybe hate's too strong a word, but I didn't. It felt so slight and so sentimental and mawkish that I didn't really enjoy that read much at all. Other books that I was assigned and hated. I rarely hate a book. Like, I can get disappointed in a book. I can be let down by a book, but hate's a strong word. So no, I mean, I was a pretty forgiving reader. I guess we'll have to go with Bless the Beast and Children, which I think was made into a film or a TV show or something, and I wasn't really into that. Number 3, locker combo. I don't remember my locker combination. Somehow I got 2 lockers in high school. By senior year, I had my official locker on the first floor, and then somehow I had access to a second locker, which was just for convenience. And I don't know if what that was all about, but anyway, I don't remember the combinations for either of them. Is there a book you remember having to read but can't actually remember? Well, if a tree falls in the forest, does it make a sound? If I don't remember it, how could I remember it now, right? But I think what's intended here is a book that I was assigned, and I have very little memory. I remember I was assigned it, but I don't have any memory of reading it or getting anything out of it. And I'm talking high school here. Give me a minute to think. No, I can't remember. I'm sorry. I think I remember all the books I was assigned and my experiences of reading those books. There may be books that I don't remember being assigned. Like, that's probably the ones I just have completely forgotten. Number 4, CliffNotes. Was there a book you were supposed to read but didn't read? Yeah, there were a few. Ivanhoe in 10th grade. I read the classic comics version of Ivanhoe. I couldn't get started with that one. It was so much reading in 10th grade. I don't know how we read all those books. It was an honors English class, so I guess they piled on extra work. But yeah, Ivanhoe, I just couldn't go there. Number 5, electives. Did you read just for fun? What books were you reading outside of your assignments? Well, I was always reading outside of my assignments, but the best thought here would be, I remember in 11th grade, and I was reading Kurt Vonnegut at the time, and I have a very vivid memory of reading Breakfast with Champions. and what was it, Kilgore Trout? Is that his name? And I remember like that book got me through chemistry class. Like I wasn't paying much attention in chemistry. I didn't understand what moles were. The teacher was like kind of a good guy, and like I didn't like hate him, but yeah, I mean, maybe he wasn't really getting the stuff across, or probably it was my fault. Like I wasn't paying attention because I was reading Kurt Vonnegut. It was far more interesting than chemistry, and chemistry was hard. So yeah, I loved Breakfast with Champions. I loved a lot of Kurt Vonnegut's books, like Sirens of Titan and Slaughterhouse-Five. We actually read in 11th grade English class, if I remember correctly, and I really loved that. But Breakfast with Champions it got me through chemistry. Number 6, Rebound. What book would you replace from the typical assigned reading list? I'm not sure I understand the question. You're saying a book that was on the reading list, but I would swap it out for something else? Well, Ivanhoe would be maybe one. It might be a great book. I just haven't. It was just too much. A bridge too far. The Blessed Beast and Children, I would have just eliminated that from the reading list. That didn't match up. Other books we read in 10th grade, I have very vivid memories of the 10th grade books, like Jane Eyre, Wuthering Heights, A Separate Peace. I wouldn't swap that out, even though I'm astonished that it's still being taught in high school these days. Catcher in a Rye, I think that belongs on there. There was The Chosen by Chaim Potok. That was good. I'm glad I read it. Kim by Rudyard Kipling would be maybe one. That would be one maybe I would replace. Now I started Kim last year just to give myself a chance to finish it, and I haven't gotten very far yet. But it's really no comment on the quality of the book. It's just, I think, Kipling can be a little bit problematic with the whole British imperialism is the best thing since sliced bread idea, but it also might be worthy. But that's kind of like a candidate for being replaced, I would say. As far as my 11th and 12th grade books, I remember the 12th grade books the least vividly for some reason. I maybe had more going on. Going back to prompt number 1, the high school crush. But that in 11th grade, we read some phenomenal stuff. There's nothing I would replace from 11th or 12th grade that I can recall. Number 7, Teacher's Pet. What book got you excited about reading for class? Waiting for Godot comes to mind in 12th grade because I was really excited to see what the teacher would say about it. And I think we had a student teacher for that book. And it turns out she went to Westchester University, which is where I ended up the next year in college. And I had the same professor whose expertise was Irish Lit that she had, I'm sure, when she was teaching our class when I was a senior in high school. And that one I felt like I got some of Waiting for Godot or had some ideas. So I was excited. I was eager to see what the teacher would say about it. I'm trying to think back to 11th grade, if there were books that would be in that category. Books I got excited about reading for class. Well, Slaughterhouse-Five. I was excited by that one. I think we read 1984 in high school, but and I'm not sure what class that was for. So that one's a little dim. I know I read it. I might have just read it on my own. But yeah, that's that. Sorry, I can't answer that one better. It would be a lie to say I was excited about everything I read. That would be a lie. But I got excited about a lot of what I read. Number 8, study hall. What was the most difficult book you read in high school? The one you spent the most time studying? Well, I would say Crime and Punishment was pretty ambitious. That was a hard read, a long read. Did I study any of these books very carefully? Not really. There wasn't anything I don't know. I think I remember doing a research paper on H.G. Wells and again, it was probably 10th grade. And it was about like Island of Dr. Moreau and the War of the Worlds and maybe also the Time Machine. So that was kind of ambitious. So I studied those books pretty carefully. But yeah, other than that, not really anything that like I had a difficult time studying or spent a lot of time on. I took honors English in high school, but I did not take like AP English. So AP English those students probably would have a better answer to that. How about nails on a chalkboard? Question 9. What was the book that made you groan when you found out you'd have to read it again? I don't think they made us read books again. Like it was one and done, as I recall. But if I had to read it again, if I were force fed it, yeah, nothing's really coming to mind for that one. Number 10, extra credit. I can redeem myself now. So for extra credit, what book do you think should be added onto every high school reading list? Oh, there are so many. Well, let me get on my soapbox a little bit and comment, and maybe then this will buy me some time to think of something. But I have a theory that high school reading lists today are well overdue for a revamp. I have a friend, I think I told this story on the channel before, who said when I was reading Breakfast with Champions in chemistry class, he was reading a separate piece for biology class or some other science class. And it was just like happened to be in the desk that he was sitting at, so he would like kind of surreptitiously read it, but he never got to the end of a separate piece. And then all these years later, I found the spare copy. You always see it in the used bookstore, so I got it for him, gave it to him, and he actually read it, and now he knows how it ends. And then I think he gave it back to me, and then I gave it to a little free library. But a separate, and then he's a substitute high school teacher, so he sent me a picture, he texted it to me that the English teacher he was subbing for was teaching a separate piece. And my jaw dropped. I thought, oh my God, they're still teaching a separate piece by John Knowles all these years later? Like, I mean, I don't want to slag the book. It's not an awful book at all, but my God, can't we do better than that? Like it's 50, 60, 70 years since that book was written. And, it's not Crime and Punishment. It's not, you can't really justify it as like, okay, well, kids really ought to read that, like Shakespeare or something. I don't know. That would be one that I would think, is due to kind of like go out of rotation, but and books like Ivanhoe and others, I honestly feel like as much as I love Shakespeare, and I do love my Shakespeare, and I think everyone should be exposed to Shakespeare, I don't know if we need to teach Shakespeare every year in English class. I don't know if that's still done, or you get a play, but from junior high on through high school, I think I did at least one Shakespeare play every year, and I'm glad for that. But maybe to make room for newer things, we need to make some cuts now and then. So there would be plenty of books that I think should be added to a contemporary high school reading list. I would retire the ones that maybe I feel a little bit dated, even a book like Lord of the Flies, I have some problems with. Um, that's probably still taught. I think we read it in junior high school, but some of these, sacred cows, like they can be sacrificed, at least for a time. And what I would replace it with, a book you think people should read? Well, let me think about it this way. Oh, here's another one. Scarlet Letter. That was 11th grade. That was kind of brutal to get through. The Custom House chapter at the beginning, I didn't know what I was reading, but that is a classic, and I think that probably should still stay on the high school list, but that's a difficult one. But even that one, like, you could have a conversation about it, whether we still need it. The question is, are there themes that, if the themes in Scarlet Letter are about, shame and adultery and, like society, ganging up on Hester Prynne and the sort of secrecy and guilt and all that, like, nobody does that better than Hawthorne, but there's probably a lot of other people who are newer who have done it pretty well too. And in this long-winded way, my rambling, what I'm trying to get across to you is the fact of what I saw when I would teach first-year college students. What I noticed was they didn't like to read. It was maybe one or two students, maybe three, who I could identify as real readers who had enjoyable reading experiences in high school. Most of them, the ones who self-reported, said they were bored by what they read, it didn't apply to their lives, they couldn't connect with it. So that's a problem. Why? Because what we want in teaching, I think, is to cultivate lifelong learning. So what is super important is to make kids love books and love reading. Now, you cannot please everyone with your curriculum choices. It's just mathematically impossible. Like, it just can't, statistically, whatever, you can't do it, right? And there's a good argument to be made to teach kids classics. And I don't know what reading lists look like these days exactly. I think a lot of classics are still being taught in high school, and I'm fine with that, but you can do too much of anything. I would have a balance of classics with contemporary, and by contemporary I mean stuff that's written in like the last 20 years, and stuff that really speaks to kids. What those books are, I really don't know, because I don't read enough new stuff, like, unfortunately. I would love for people to put suggestions in the comments field. Like, if you, like, what books do you think should be taught, like, be on required reading lists in high school? Like, especially newer ones, like ones that you really think are just so great. I would love to know, but I think that need is there. And, like, the problem, though, I know we're going down the rabbit hole. This is fraught with problems. One reason why I think a lot of these oldies get taught still is because they're safe. And they're people get set in their ways. And, like, parents are just kind of like, oh, yeah, I had that in high school, so I guess my kids should read it too. But some of the newer stuff, some of the stuff that talks about real issues that are of real import to real kids, really today, they might be too controversial. You might have gangs of book censors appearing at PTA meetings and complaining and going to the school board and petitioning and say, I don't want Johnny and Janie reading that scary thing, you know. But we need to read books that are about like identity and race relations and gender issues, and these things are important, you know. They're meaningful, and there's been great books written about all this stuff. And just as we need to read things about heroism and about war and crime and guilt and psychology and all the rest of it, like that, it's all worthwhile. You just have to find the right fit. So this is, I don't think I'm going to get extra credit here because I haven't really answered the question. I don't know. I don't read enough new books. Other books, okay, now that I'm finishing, but the question 11 isn't a question, it's just to tag some people who you'd like to hear answers from. I may add some people in there, but I think those of you who watch the channel, like, consider yourself tagged and have fun with it. And tag me back so I can watch your responses. But another book that just popped into my head that would go back to like the high school crush book, and this is an 11th grade read, and that of course would be The Great Gatsby, which I am currently rereading in the 100th anniversary Library of America edition, and I'm loving it. That book really was. That was a lot of fun to read, and it felt relevant. I still think it feels relevant. So you want to go back to this other question about the books that would replace or be that you think should be on every high school reading list. We want books on those reading lists that they have literary merit, however you define that. It's hard to measure that. But they have a reputation for quality, and also books that are relevant. They don't have to be about contemporary subjects, but the themes should be relevant to things that matter to us today. And if you get that right mix, you show people that reading can be entertaining, literature can be fun and interesting and informative, and learn so much from it, and you couple that with relevancy, I think you're going to instill more of a love of reading in younger people today. That's my theory. What do you think of it? That was my attempt to go back to high school. Now I'm going to have bad dreams tonight. Bye-bye, folks.